Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Access Channel Comics, episode number 11, hosted by yours truly, The Banks, Corey Banks, coming at you again one more time. And today we got pretty good things to talk about that's going on in the industry itself. As in this industry, the entertainment industry, there's always a lot of cool things going on, so you can never be really bored in the entertainment industry. And one of the main things we want to talk about today is the DC Rebirth. That's been a hot topic in the last past 2 weeks online, and now that it is here, it's hotter than ever. Also, we want to talk about Jeremy Irons' comments regarding Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Jeremy Irons, if it comes from him, more than likely you can take it way more than with a grain of salt. So we're going to get into talking about that. As a matter of fact, I want to go over that right now. That's a little bit of the shorter story. Then we get to DC Rebirth. Jeremy Irons, it was quoted this week that he said that Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was overstuffed. And it deserved bad reviews. And I got to be honest, I agree with him. Jeremy Irons, it's not only because, but he is one of my favorite actors of all time. I've enjoyed a lot of his work. He is an actor. Before Superstar, he is an actor, one of the greatest of all time. And he played Alfred and was definitely one of the biggest highlights of the movie. He is going to be returning as Alfred in Justice League Part 1, so I'm very happy about that. And he and Ben Affleck has great chemistry on the big screen as Bruce and Alfred. And, as Batman and Alfred. And something that he said to Batman in the movie, saying, yes, says everything has changed. I think when it comes to the forefront is this. With Batman, the thing about people concerned about him killing, that Batman is gone. That Batman was done at the end of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. If you go back to the season 1 of Arrow, remember Oliver was a killer at times, but he started realizing he can do this without killing and be that hero he's meant to be. Batman has always been that way, but now he's going to bring back full circle. He said, hey, if I'm going to be the leader of this team or one of the leaders of this team, I'm definitely one of the oldest. I got to be a role model for these other people, whether metahumans, aliens, humans, whatever, for the Justice League. I think that's what we're going to get out of Ben Affleck's Batman in the next time we see him. Now, with that said, this is not the main focus. Jeremy Irons said what he said, and I definitely do agree. But he did also go on to say his Justice League Part 1 is going to be a lot different. It's a lot more simple, more lighthearted, and it's most certainly the script is light. It's not convoluted or anything, and that right there gave me a sign of relief. I really liked hearing that, and I think an actor like that, once he sees a script and notices that, Jeremy Irons is one of those actors where, like a Christian Bale in a sense, those type of actors are method actors. They pretty much choose their work wisely. Now, if you catch them in a movie that's not so hot, you're not going to catch them in a bad movie here. 2 movies in a row not so hot, because that's messing with their career and the way they go. So that's a sigh of relief. With Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, hey, I said many times I liked it. I didn't get a high perimeter thrill set like I did with The Dark Knight or with Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the way I really feel so great about those movies every time I watch them. But I think that'll be something very good. It's something to what he said that meant a lot to me and it meant a lot to a lot of people. So we'll see how that goes. Now on to DC Rebirth. DC Rebirth, as you know, it is here now. And there's been a lot of reviews online about it and everything. And today I want to give mine and my opinions about it. First off, going back, my thing is different from a lot of other people. I heard a lot of people say they were concerned, they were skeptical about this is going to be a reboot. That wasn't my concern, really. I don't mind reboots when it calls for it, a reboot. Sometimes what calls for a reboot, if something hasn't been rebooted in a while, it's time for something fresh and new. It's kind of like, for example, take a movie franchise. 1997, we know Batman franchise went down the flames with Batman and Robin, the movie franchise. Then 2003, they started having talks about wanting to do a new Batman franchise. Then we heard around 2003, 2004, knew that Christian Bale had signed on to play Batman. 2005, we got Batman Begins. One of the best original stories. One of the best, and this is when reboot started to use a lot. One of the best reboots of all time. Which is Batman Begins. That was needed. Go to the Spider-Man franchise. It was a real hot franchise. It did kind of flame out with Spider-Man 3, not necessarily like the Batman franchise, but it wasn't necessarily in need of a reboot. And we got The Amazing Spider-Man, which is a good movie, but with that said, reboots are needed sometimes when it's been a long length of time or something is just in a complete mess. With DC Comics, the comic book, they weren't necessarily in a complete mess, but they weren't as convoluted as it was when they started the new DC 52. However, it was time for a change, a shakeup in a way. And what Jeff Johns has done, this is what really has me believing. I know movies are different, but they have chosen the right person to have a lot of creative control as one of the ones who have a lot of say-so, that is. I say he's overall in control of the DC extended universe, and from my understanding, a tour was taken on at Warner Brothers, and they're calling it the DC Cinematic Universe. So either way, it's just a cinematic universe. But with that said, the reason I'm bringing all this up is Jeff Johns is that guy who can really turn things around, because in his interview recently, he said he wanted to bring back love and hope in the DC universe. That's what he wanted to bring to the comic books and films. Well, sometimes people got to understand this. With comic books are something where when you read it, you're getting escape out of the real world. It's fiction. Some things can happen like it happens in comic books, but there are a lot of things that cannot happen in real life. Comic books can be taken seriously. You got your darker tone comic book books. Batman is one of them. You got Watchmen. You got some of the X-Men stuff that is very serious. But at the same token, comic books a lot of times something that's supposed to be an escape. It represents hope and symbolism, and you have fun. And that's what DC Rebirth has. It is a refreshing take on these DC characters and how they're bringing them all back. People who hadn't seen or didn't get to say goodbye to last time. And the DC 52 is still in place. It's still intact with this. Storylines are not convoluted. And you're getting a comic book issue's first issue between 80 to 89 pages for only $2.99. Can't beat that. That's a great deal. And, it's opening up with some narration. With Jeff Johns talking about the universe. And you see Batman, for example, sitting in the Batcave. Alfred, they're kind of talking. We're talking, you hear Alfred call him. And then all of a sudden Alfred said, the Joker is on, Master Bruce's Joker's on loose, and Batman said, well, it can't be all these places at one time. You're coming out finding out there's 3 Jokers running around the DC universe. Now, this is the only kind of part where I'm kind of unsure about in Rebirth. Because I said 3 Jokers, is it 3 people disguised as the Joker? But no, I like the way they're doing it. It's actually the Joker. You have the first appearance Joker, the classic Joker. You have the Killing Joke Joker, which may be the most dangerous one, and you have one of the most recent Jokers that Scott Snyder created. So these 3 are running around at the same time. So I'm very looking forward to see how they're going to do with that. Other than that, that's probably the most challenging thing of twisting, like what is going on here. The rest of the stuff is so simple and laid out. It's beautiful. So, Batman is all sitting in the Batcave, then he notices Wally West shows up. It's kind of like in a Time Force thing. And this is the Wally West we all knew and came off of. The Wally West from the Justice League cartoons, Justice League Unlimited, with the red hair, from Young Justice. The original Wally West, you see him running back in the background. And he didn't die. He's been kind of stuck, kind of like in a Speed Force thing. And he's like, Bruce. And Batman is like, Barry? He said, no, I'm not Barry. You know me, but, it's kind of like, I'm a lot younger than you knew me and stuff. And Batman feels like, being the world's greatest detective, he said, I feel like I know this kid, but I don't. And so he was like, there's a force watching over us, and he's a real cause for this. See, in this, you kind of find out, as historic and great as the Flashpoint Paradox story is, in the comic book and the animated movie, you learn that Flash, Barry Allen, really not responsible for the DC 52 after all. You'll find out someone else is a little bit later on. So, maybe I should have said it before, this is spoilers. So, Barry is warning Bruce. Not Barry, excuse me. Wally is warning Bruce. Similar to how, Barry did back in the old Crisis storyline and in Batman v Superman, but he's warning him and stuff. And so then they go to different other stories. I'm going to keep it brief. You kind of find out in this Green Arrow. It's a classic Green Arrow. Him and Black Canary are together again. Now the DC 52, they really didn't have much part to do with each other, but they brought that back classic. Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle, is in this. He's returned, living, alive and well. He and the current Blue Beetle, they interact a lot. It's like a mentoring type thing. Also, Ted Kord meets Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is here on Earth 1 again. I mean, it's just so many things the way these characters come out. And it's like stuff that's refreshing. You be like, wow, because sometimes it kind of like, I said, wow, Dr. Fate is on Earth 2. That's cool, but why isn't he on Earth 1? You had that. You have the Justice Society back in comic books again, because that was taken out of the DC 52 to a certain extent. But you have these characters back again. What Jeff Johns has done was, it's kind of like saying, we knew what we did was wrong. Or we kind of shortchanged the fans in a sense. But Jeff Johns stepping up saying like this, I'm going to straighten this out for you guys. And he does a very beautiful job of doing it. And he brings it back to the forefront. And in this book, you see a lot of other things that just make so much sense. You see the pre-52 Superman. He's with Lois, got a son named John, got like a beard, and he's working on some things. They're living together. And this is Superman that we all grew up off of. You see, the DC 52 Superman, there is something that happened to him, but you have to check out the ending of the 52 issues to find out about that, which, hey, you're going to find out he's not around, put it that way. But this Superman, our Superman that we knew before him, is working on trying to do something to possibly get him back in the game. You get to see so many great flashbacks from Wally West, remembering back when he met friends such as Robin, Dick Grayson, Wonder Girl, so many other Teen Titans, classic stories that we knew. Now, the black Wally West who was brought in DC 52 is still around, but the original red-headed white Wally West is here. And Wally is great. This is the great thing about Wally, and you see him back there. Wally jokes a lot. He's clever with it. But Wally is something that DC is really about. It's about hope. It's about an ideal. He brings that inspiration and joy to DC Comics. There are some other characters who do that too. Well, Wally probably does just as great as anyone. It's kind of like on the other side what Spider-Man does with Marvel. Let you know this is a serious situation, but I'm that relief here for you to really show you there is hope, positive hope. And that's what Wally does. And to break down the story, what I got out of this was, it was just a refreshing tale. It was a simple written out comic book that made me laugh, it made me smile, and brought back so many characters that really didn't get to say goodbye to in the DC 52. And Wally is one of them. And to have Wally come back, a huge fan favorite. There are big fan favorites, but one of the biggest fan favorites. That was a refreshing take. And it just makes me wonder the other places we're going to see it go. Where we see Bart Allen pop up, and other great characters and stuff. There are so many wonderful characters in this. We're going to be seeing the new Justice League and everything. So there are more issues to come. Like, first up, Batman Rebirth. They got a lot of rebirths coming, so this is just going to be so great. Now, here's the big twist of the story. Many years ago in live action cinema, there was a movie called Watchmen came out in 2009. Watchmen at the time became one of the biggest opening R-rated movies in the top 10 at the time. I don't know if it's still standing there now. It was a movie where, based off the graphic novel by Alan Moore, it was very huge. At the end of that movie, you remember Dr. Manhattan killed Rorschach, blew him up. You come to find out that he does the same thing with Pandora in this. Pandora had a huge story arc in the DC 52, but she's no longer around. He killed her off. Same thing with Rorschach. This is where it connects, so pay attention. In that movie, him and Osmodeus, If I pronounce the name, I probably killed the name. I like the character, but I always messes up his name. They had this thing of like, Dr. Manhattan was basically trying to, make a bigger, better world. And so you kind of find out he is the real cause of the DC 52. Dr. Manhattan is behind the whole thing. Now, I'm not knowing, they're not saying if any of the Watchmen is going to show up. But some people kind of like, man, I like the Watchmen just having their own thing. They are owned by DC Comics, but they haven't ever really been a part of the DC universe. It's kind of similar to like how a lot of the Inhumans, some of them haven't really been in the main Marvel Universe storylines. That's how it is with Watchmen. But for me, I really like the idea. I like the idea of maybe Batman meeting Dr. Manhattan, or Batman meeting Rorschach or Night Owl, the Question meeting Rorschach, Superman meeting Dr. Manhattan, or something like that. Black Canary meeting Six Spectre. We never know where this is going to come from. Now, we don't know if all of Watchmen are going to play villains in this, or they're going to be something like a crime syndicate. But this is something climactic. And see, Jeff Johns is one of those writers in it for the long haul. When he writes a story, it's not just for a 2-week event. It's something historic, and he has written so many wonderful stories dating back to JSA, Flash Rebirth, Green Lantern Rebirth. He wrote some of the best Batman, stories and stuff in Superman. So we got to take a look and see, this is headed to somewhere in a special direction. But with Dr. Manhattan in the mix, a powerful force entity like that, I mean, that is just amazing. I mean, some of you think about the equivalent of Marvel if Phoenix was just totally in control of her powers and just plotting all this stuff. That's what Dr. Manhattan is doing. And what I love about this, no one thought this would ever happen. People probably were like, okay, who's behind this? Is it the crime syndicate again? Is it Darkseid? Is it the Anti-Monitor? Is it Lex Luthor himself? None of those guys. They brought in someone. Jeff Johns did was extraordinary. He brought in someone that no one would have guessed who would have done it. Now, there are some people who would have been like, wow, what if Dr. Manhattan was in DC Universe? But no one. If you would have gave people 5 to 10 selections, choose a bad guy or even a good guy who would be doing this, who Wally was talking about, no one would have chosen Dr. Manhattan. And that's what I love about it. It's something different put in tales of legendary characters, legacies. See, the DC 52 didn't really have legacies. We got DC 52, they were 5 years in the game of being superheroes. But you got this Batman predates all the way back to the 1939 Batman. You got this Green Arrow predating all the way back to when Green Arrow debuted in 1940 or 1941. Aquaman predating back. It's just like in this, Aquaman, he proposes to Mira. It's so many wonderful things going on in this. A lot of great action, but a lot of great storytelling. And I look very forward to see where this goes. I want to see what Dr. Manhattan is up to. Because really thinking back and go back, for those of you who have seen Watchmen, and if you haven't, go back and watch some of the things, his actions in the movie. You'll be like, this guy is really, he could do that. He's up to something. So it's going to be very, I can't wait to see where this goes. I'm going to keep up with the issues. And this right here is what's so cool. To all of you who don't know where to start in comic books, right now, if it's any confusing part, you probably got it. You kind of like, okay, well, should I pick up with the classic? Should I pick up with the ending of DC 52, then get into Rebirth? If you have that time, yes, do that. But if you just want to get right into Rebirth, do that too. For those who you have that knowledge of DC Comics and the mythology of all these characters like Wally West, you'll be fine picking up a Rebirth. You'll be like, wow, I remember these characters and stuff. Finally, we'll find out what happened to so-and-so. For those who don't know a lot about comics, you'll be fine picking up a Rebirth also. Because some of them are like this, hey, that's Wally West. I never picked up a comic book, but I remember watching him on the Justice League cartoon. He's called Justice League Unlimited, Young Justice, and stuff like that. So some of you probably remember from way back in the day. So you'll be fine. But if you want to be like, I'm telling on type readers, I don't like to miss anything, I'm going to pick up a couple of issues of those final DC 52s before I pick up Rebirth. That's fine too. Now if you see Rebirth, get it. Don't necessarily read it yet. Get your 52s and stuff like that, because these things are selling like hotcakes. And it's just magnificent storytelling, and I enjoyed it. Jeff Johns has done it again. Great story writing. And that's why I think, don't get me wrong, movies are a different level. Well, a lot of people don't understand Jeff Johns started out in movies. They went to comic book writing. He's back in the movies doing some more. But he's going to be kind of playing a Kevin Feige role. But this is real cool because DC Comics needs the symbolism of hope, love, and inspiration back in it. Let them know it's going to be fun. From my understanding, Justice League Part 1, like Jeremy Irons saying, I heard this even before, he said it's a lighter script, good sense of humor, way lighter than Batman v Superman. So I like hearing about those things. And I would like to know what you guys think about, so please put your comments at the bottom. And there's so many great things coming up, and going on. And like I said, put your comments at the bottom and click this video and subscribe. And I just want to know what you guys think and everything, because I'm going to keep up with this, DC Rebirth, and maybe talk about it some more. Maybe have some issues on hand sometime, and I'll talk about it some more. But that's all I wanted to really talk about today, and all I wanted to get into. I really appreciate you tuning in. Like I said before, any comments or questions that you have, put it at the bottom. Click the subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. And remember, Access Channel Comics. There are many. There are few, but there are truly none like you. See you next time, and peace.